I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
When there is no hope, no chance, no possibility of escape, Delta Force gets the word.
It's a go. Take them down.
They're not after adventure or glory. They're fighting to save American lives.
No! You take one of us, you gotta take us all.
Chuck Norris, Lee Marvin. The Delta Force, rated R. Starts Friday, February 14th at theaters everywhere.
Hey, this is Matt once again. We're about to another video. There's another paid request, this time for Alban. And for anyone interested in requesting any other types of videos or topics or reactions or reviews or anything in between or anything out of the blue, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this time I'm talking about the Delta Force. Now, the Delta Force came out around 1986, and this is when Chuck Norris had to deal with Cannon Films. And 1986 was a hell of a year for movies, because Aliens came out, you had Big Trouble in Little China, the remake of The Fly, for me, I mean, Maximum Overdrive, and Cobra, and The Golden Child, and it's just a lot of fun movies, including this one. And like I said, Cannon Films produced this, and I am a Cannon Film fan. I know they did a bad rap, but you know what? I think they made a lot of fun, entertaining, escapist type of movies. Which is funny, like a film like Godzilla vs. Kong is being praised for that, but then films like this, where the critics were deride and make fun of and step on and piss on, but oh yeah, well that movie's dumb and stupid, but you know, they say the same about this, and they mock it and they ridicule it, but hey, what do I know? Now, this is actually directed by Menahem Golan, one of the guys who created this company of Cannon Films, who ran the company, and Menahem Golan directed a few others as well. I believe he did Enter the Ninja. I could be wrong on that. And yeah, at this time, Chuck Norris made a deal to be in a lot of movies with them, from the Missing in Action films to Firewalker to The Hero and the Terror, Invasion USA, and to be honest, some of Chuck Norris's best movies. Now, this is loosely, and I say the term loosely, based on a real event that happened, where these hostages were taken over by these bad guys, and there was a rescue operation. Didn't really end the best in reality, but you know, Cannon Films, they wanted to change that. You know, they wanted to give a little bit more of a fun escapism, hoorah type of action picture. And I know this film isn't everyone's cup of tea, even Chuck Norris fans, but I quite enjoy it. It is a bit long in the tooth, I will admit, because it is over 2 hours long. I think what it is the first half of it's two movies in one. Like the first half is more of a hostage. It's a hostage situation movie with a bunch of familiar older actors, like Shelley Winters from the Poseidon Adventure. You have, I believe, Martin Balsam, George Kennedy from the Naked Gun movies and the Airport films, Joey Bishop, who was part of the Rat Pack with Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra. Even Bo Svensson, he was the pilot of the plane. He's been on quite a bit of stuff. Let's see, one I enjoyed was a film called Deep Space with him and Charles Napier. Yeah, I had fun with that one. And again, that's a good character after Bo Svensson. I believe, was it him or the other Bo that took over the Walking Tall series? That did the Walking Tall sequels. I can't remember now. But why do I like this film? I mean, the first shot is a chopper and boom, it explodes. I'm like, that's canon films. The very first shot is an explosion. And you have Chuck Norris's character as McCoy rescuing a guy from a fire. And you get... I love this score by Alan Silvestri. Now, I would not say it's my favorite score of the 80s. That would go to Aliens or Rambo First Blood Part 2, you know, a variety of other scores. But this is a score that epitomizes the 80s. Like, if someone were to ask me, again, not my favorite score, although I do love it, but like, what's a score that epitomizes the 80s? I would go with this, the Delta Force theme by Alan Silvestri. And Alan Silvestri did a lot of great scores, from Back to the Future to Predator, but this one, and they use that a lot. Some people may feel it's overused, but to me, I can't get enough of that theme. I fucking love that theme to death. It works for any action film. It works for any action moment. You know how there's this meme where everything goes well with the Dial theme? Someone should do it where everything goes well with the Delta Force theme. Just fucking badass. And so you got Chuck Norris, you got Alan Silvestri's badass score, you got Lee Marvin as the head commander that works with Chuck Norris, and apparently Charles Bronson was the first choice of that, which makes sense because those were the two big guys with canon films, Bronson and Norris. So it would make sense that canon films would want, hey, put both of them in one movie. It didn't work out. I don't know why Charles Bronson didn't do it. I mean, he would go on to do, you know, the Death Wish sequels, including like Death Wish 5. But he didn't do that. I don't know why. But Lee Marvin does a good job. Good older character actor. Steve James. It's great to see Steve James in there. This guy here. There you go. Steve James. You may remember him most from the first 3 American Ninja films as Jackson. Badass in those movies. He also worked with Chuck Norris a couple other times, including The Hero and the Terror. He not only did he work with Michael Dudikoff in the American Ninja 1 and 2, but worked with him in a film called Avenging Force. And Steve James was used a decent amount of times with canon films, which I'm surprised that canon films never, like, in the 80s, did a film starring Steve James as an action hero. I'm like, you're using him a lot. The American Ninja 1, 2, and 3. and again in this film. But yeah, I'm surprised they didn't use him as a starring vehicle. It would be much later on with films like Riverbend and Street Hunter, which not the best movie, sadly, especially with the lack of budget and stuff. But I just mean the heyday of the 80s, like 87, 88, did Steve James a movie. Kind of like Carl Weathers had Action Jackson, did Steve James his version of Action Jackson, or I don't know, him fighting vampires like an early version of Blade. There you go, Steve James's Blade in the 80s. Granted, Wesley Snipes pulled off the best in the 90s, but if you had a Blade in the 80s, Steve James. Or, fuck, Luke Cage. There you go. Luke Cage. What? Instead of wasting your time doing Superman 4 canon films, you should have gotten the rights to Luke Cage and have Steve James play motherfucking Luke Cage. Missed opportunity, now that I think about it. Why the fuck didn't they do that? I don't know why I'm looking at this like the microphone's going to talk back to me. Why? Why not? I want to see that. 88. You know, it's instead of Superman 4 in 87, Steve James as Luke Cage. Because Luke Cage, like his powers, canon films can work within the budget with that stuff. But anyway, it's great to see Steve James there and working with Chuck Norris, which then he would work with him a few other times. And I was saying before, like, this movie is two movies in one, because the first half is the build-up where after the beginning scene of the rescue, then we have these hostages on a plane. They get hijacked by terrorists, which I know people say, this is un-PC, it is racist. I hate to be the bearer of bad fucking news. Some of those type of terrorists actually fucking existed. They actually existed. Yes, there was a time where terrorists happened to be from another country and wanted to kill people. In fact, I think 9/11 kind of showed sometimes that was more than the case. So no, I don't think anything's fucking racist in it. It's like, whatever. One thing to note is the main villain is played by Robert Forster. May rest in peace. Robert Forster, who starred in Alligator from 1980. He was in Quentin Tarantino's Jackie Brown. Great actor. Yes, I know he's a white guy playing. I know, but I thought Robert Forster did a great job. And he was kind of an interesting villain because he was villainous, but he would do certain things like he's taking these trinkets, but he sees a woman, gives back the ring to her. Or there's this German stewardess who stands up for what's right. And there's a point where Robert Forster looks at her and goes, "You're a very brave woman." So I like that Robert Forster, I don't think he was a one-note villain. There's little bits they gave here and there that made him a bit more interesting. And yeah, I think Robert Forster pulled it off fairly well. You know, worthy villain. And during that, again, you get these older actors, like you mentioned, Joey Bishop and Martin Balsam and Shelley Winters, again from the Poseidon Adventure. And there's a point where the terrorists, they don't like the Jews, so any Jews on the call sheet, you come up and you sit in the front, motherfucker. And I can see where people would be, especially looking back, maybe a bit bored with the first half. Because I will say what makes the film work is the second half of the film. The first half, I could deal with it because I like seeing these older actors. I like seeing Robert Forster do his thing. I love the score. You even have, what's his name? Robert Vaughn. Robert Vaughn, who was in Superman 3, Battle Beyond the Stars, been a lot of stuff. He plays a guy from working with the military, which looks like his scenes were probably shot all in one day, pretty much sitting in a chair with a phone. But I could tell that Menahem Golan wanted a type of scope for this. While the Cannon films were not always the biggest budgeted film, I still felt like Golan almost wanted to make this, I don't want to say his epic, but he wanted to make a bigger than life movie. Again, you get all these actors, almost like a Poseidon, almost like a Irwin Allen set of a lot of his movies that he produced or directed. Get all these famous people in one film in a disaster movie. Here's, which is funny because George Kennedy was in Airport, and now there's another plane thing. And George Kennedy plays a priest who's on the plane. I appreciate seeing the older actors and Marvin Forster, but yeah, I get what people are saying, where the first half, it's not really the most fun to sift through. It's not really the most exciting to sift through. I do think that's one of the issues, is there's some trimming that could be done running time wise, pacing wise. And if there's stuff to look at the trim, it's that first half of the movie. But then when it gets to, they gotta land, and the Delta Force are there, and then, hey, they get the women and children off. Lee Marvin has to warn the Delta Force, wait a minute, there's more guys than we think on the plane. If you guys try to go in full force, there's going to be a massacre. They get away. They gotta go to Israel. When they get to Israel. God, I'm so fucking tired, man. I'm doing this late. I can't even talk right. I sound drunk, but I don't drink. They go over there. And that's when you're getting more of the Chuck Norris fun. Chuck Norris smoking some fools with Uzis, or 3 places where they need to get to and attack a school, center of town, and a plane. And you have firepower. Chuck Norris having lines like, "Sleep tight, sucker." You shoots a guy who's under a bed. Uzi fun. Sliding down, shooting the Uzi, using bazookas, while again that great Alan Silvestri, da 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 da. And come on, you got motorcycles with fucking rockets. I know some people like Megaforce. I'm not a fan of Megaforce. If I want to see motorcycles with rockets on them, this is the movie for me. And not only does it have rockets, but it's also got machine guns attached to it. And he was blowing things up with rockets while the score is rocking. You get a little bit of fisticuffs. I'm like, yes. I'm sure people like, I wish the first half had a bit more of that. Or maybe the first half be truncated a little bit. I think that would have helped even more so. But even you get to the finale with the runway, shooting machine guns, rockets, fucking up the bad guys, you're getting on the plane. Some decent stunt work for the person hanging off the plane. I'm not going through all the details, granted, because if you haven't seen it, go see it. I think it's fun if you can deal with the first half. Again, the first half I could deal with because, like I said, Robert Forster's the villain I enjoy. The older actors, I don't mind them. I thought they were all good. I don't think there was any bad acting, at least in my opinion. And then from time to time, we'll cut to Chuck Norris and Steve James and that stuff. But the second half, I think, is worth it. And a lot of people like Delta Force 2 more compared to the first. I don't mind Delta Force 2, but honestly, I do like this film more. Because I think in Delta Force 2, Chuck Norris is acting, something about his voice is not quite right. like he's more wooden than usual. Like with films like this, yes, I can see why people call him wooden of an actor, but I think he fits well with his voice, his tone of voice, his look. It fits well as his badass presence persona. Delta Force 2, just something about his voice seemed a bit off to me. I don't know what it is. And also, I think with this, I just felt more of a bigger deal, like a bigger scope. Especially when you get the finale with the motorcycles and the cars and the rockets and the store. The store is definitely missed in the sequel. And I like Billy Drago as the villain in Delta Force 2, but I like Robert Forster a lot more. With Chuck Norris is just beating the shit out of him, breaking his arm across this car door, and then giving his big, the last fuck you with the motorcycle and the rockets in the back of the motorcycle. Again, this one just felt like it had a bigger budget compared to the second film. Again, having Steve James and Lee Marvin in there helped in this movie. Because like I said, it's cool to have Steve James, like, boom, there's Chuck Norris and Steve James, and they both got bazookas shooting at the bad guys. And, Lee Marvin. Yeah, Lee Marvin, would have been nice to see him do a bit more. This guy here. A bit more to do action-wise, even just shooting-wise. But his presence, I did enjoy. They're one of those gruff, older actors that, like I said, had that presence that... And that's a word I use a lot, presence, but they're just a person that you just buy into who they are. They're not faking being a tough guy. You just buy them as a tough motherfucker. Which is missing from movies today, let's be honest. There are exceptions, but a lot of times you're like, yeah, that person might be a fucking femboy for all I fucking know. But yeah, despite the first half, truncate the pacing a bit, some stuff could be cut out. I'm trying to think what you would cut out. I'm trying to think. I like the opening. I don't know if you necessarily need the open. Well, I know why they have the opening, because they want a little bit of action. So I would keep that. They have a little bit of action. That's why it starts with an explosion, because they know it'll take a while to get back to the action. But just some stuff on the plane, or maybe certain characters, you could just eliminate, so that little screen time here and there could be shortened. I'd have to really study and go like, oh, cut here, cut there. But, yeah, the top 7 reasons why I like the film: Chuck Norris, Lee Marvin, Steve James, Alan Silvestri Store, the second half of action, the motorcycle rockets, and Robert Forster. All that, and a bag of chips, as one person would say. It's why I overall do have quite a bit of fun with the flick. I would say this probably would be in my top 10 Chuck Norris movies. My personal favorite is Firewalker, because I love the Indiana Jones, granted a lower budget, but the Indiana Jones aspect. Chuck Norris looks like he's having a lot of fun. And to me, it's the most badass fight stuff he got to do in that barroom brawl in Firewalker. So that's my favorite. I like him working with Louis Gossett Jr. Silent Rage would be in the top 10. I'm missing an action too. The beginning, I think, is underrated. That's in my top 10. I don't know. I have to think about what all would be in my top 10. Invasion USA would be in there. Have to think about that for a bit. Anyway, with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. And I miss movies like this. I really do. And I think there's a Blu-ray with this, with features. I don't know what's on the features, but I just have this on DVD. One day I would like to pick it up. Because, I mean, this is just a picture from the movie, but I remember that the poster, which probably by this point is over here, be a pretty cool poster. So, yeah, I like to pick up the Blu-ray one day. Check out what the features are. Probably not a lot of features. I don't know why Chuck Norris doesn't get interviewed. Because these are different stories. He declines, then other stories, oh, they didn't ask me. It's, why are these, Chuck Norris says they didn't ask me. The other people go, no, he didn't want to do it. And it's like, well, which is it? I don't know. But yeah, the Delta Force have quite a bit of fun with. Especially the second half. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. And we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. Dun, 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 dun.